Creating an action plan for your remote job search does require a couple of things to talk about, and we want to go through the steps that will help you set yourself up for the most success. So we'll talk about why an action plan is important. We'll talk about tracking systems. Um, we'll identify remote job search to-dos that you need to keep in mind. And we'll talk about how to evaluate your tactics that you're using to land a job and what you can do to try to accelerate or experience a little bit more momentum in your search as you're going through it, because we know it's a challenge out there right now. So we want to make sure we are giving you the tools you need. So hopefully you'll see that in the presentation. And then as we round out today's time, as I mentioned, we will have an audience Q&A. All right. If I said job searching is simple, right? Everybody would probably, if we saw everybody, if we were all in the same room, people would be shaking their head, right? It is not simple. It is pretty hard right now, actually. And I know a lot of frustration exists in how things are shaping up in the market right now. So hopefully going through some critical pieces of an action plan will be beneficial. And some of these things you may be doing, which is great. There might be some things that you might be able to enhance because, as you and I all know, it is not simple to land a job right now. So your job search needs an action plan. Why? Because accountability, focus, and strategy are so important to the success. You know, you don't want to be like blindly throwing darts at a dartboard, right? Are you approaching your job search with the strategy of a chess player instead? This process definitely can feel daunting and overwhelming. And a lot of times it's hard to know where to start or even if you're doing the right things. So instead of going to a job search blindly, you want to be strategic and intentional to help yourself feel like things are more manageable and then eliminate any potential frustration that you could control. So this is why an action plan can be very beneficial. And how do you do that? So you want to think of your job search action plan as a syllabus. And sometimes, you really can start, you want to, or think about starting at the end and move backwards, right? So what is your ultimate end goal in your job search? Well, obviously it's to find a job, but there might be more to it. You need to identify those things first. Is it to switch careers or switch industries? Is it to find 100% remote work? Is it to find a job that pays more or has different benefits? Are you looking to work for a specific company or organization? Start your job search with the end in mind. And so that might require putting together a list or an outline of your ideal outcomes for your job search. As I mentioned, you want to think of your action plan kind of as a course syllabus, as if you were in school. You don't typically complete a course in 1 or 2 weeks. It generally takes around 15 or 16 weeks to complete a course. And similarly, a job search is not a quick process either. Typically, over the last few years, the average time has taken people to find a job has been 3 to 6 months. Right now, it is on the high end of that or longer. So it does feel really daunting to approach it as one large task to complete. So just as you would in a course, break your job search down into smaller, more manageable weekly tasks for yourself to complete so that you can feel like you are accomplishing something and moving in the right direction. Giving yourself deadlines is also going to help keep yourself more accountable. Now, staying organized through a job search is also extremely important. So let's talk about the tracking system, because what we're hearing from many of you is that you are applying to a high volume of jobs. And that means that there is more to keep track of. If before, when you were in the job search, maybe you applied to 5 or 10 jobs and you landed a job. Now we're hearing that people are applying to many more jobs. So it's even more important to organize and track the jobs that you apply for. Now, there is no one size fits all for a tracking system. I probably the one size fits all piece of this is to keep it simple, but you really want to develop a tracking system that you will stick with. For some people, it might be a spreadsheet, it might be an email folder or a folder on your desktop. You might keep track on paper. You might use something like Excel, Trello, or your calendar. You need to figure out what is the best system for you that you will actually use and keep track of. And then you're going to identify the key activities you'll be doing in your job search. Of course, applying to jobs, but you might, if you've figured out your end goal and say you're changing careers or switching industries, then you might have identified that you need to do some upskilling or skill building. You might need to do some company research. You might need to, not might, I think everybody should be doing networking, different things like that. Then you want to set realistic goals for each day, whether that is completing an application, adding a certain number of networking contacts, completing research on one company or whatever that number is, whatever is going to be feasible for you each day of that particular week is what your to-do list should say. And be sure to track your progress by using, tools that we have on FlexJobs. We'll go over those in the next slide or two. You'll have your job search action plan. There's a job search tracker sheet that I'm going to show you quickly. And those are things that you can get on our site. We aren't just tracking our progress to make sure we keep moving forward, but also to keep ourselves in a calmer state of mind when we think nothing is happening. If you have a visual to look at the progress that you've made, that can be helpful to manage it, because a job search always takes longer than we think it should. And I think now that statement is more true than ever. What many people don't realize is that the probability of getting a job interview from one application varies from 2 to 8%. So it's not very high. That means on average, it takes at least 10 to 20 applications to possibly get an interview. And over time, it can take roughly, 1 month to find a job for every $10,000 of pay you would like to earn annually. So in theory, if you were looking to earn a $60,000 year job, your job search could take 6 months. All right. As I mentioned in the last slide, there is a checklist on FlexJobs, my job search checklist, that is available to FlexJobs members. It will help you keep track if you are a member and stay organized directly on the FlexJobs site. Now, while this is member specific, if you aren't a member, there are 2 other resources on our site that you can access, whether or not you are a member. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the FlexJobs job search action plan worksheet. This is downloadable. So if you go to the resources section and our samples, you can download this Word document. It allows space for you to personalize your plan, and it provides suggestions throughout the document on what you may need to include or think about including on your job search plan. Now, the third resource that we have is a downloadable job search tracker spreadsheet in Excel that you can also download, and you can find it in the resources. This includes 4 separate sheets. You can keep track of your job applications, any company research you do, interviews, as well as any skill training that you can do. And of course, you can customize this to meet your needs. So those are some things that I would recommend taking a peek at and seeing if it will work for you as is, or you can create something from that that will work for what you'd like to accomplish. All right, so here are some critical remote job search to-dos. The remote job search is pretty similar to traditional job search, but there are some critical steps in the process that can help improve your chances of landing a remote position. First and foremost, target your search. Now, while you want to have some wiggle room in what you're searching for, it's important to do an internal assessment of what types of jobs, industries, work schedules, and amount of remote schedule you want, so that you don't feel overwhelmed with too many options. So if you remember at the beginning, I said you start with the end in mind. These are all things to consider. Also, as you search, it's really critical to be cognizant that just because a position is remote, it doesn't necessarily mean that the company can hire within your locale. People tend to think that remote positions are the same as work from anywhere jobs, and that is not the case. Those jobs do exist, but the reality is that 95% of remote jobs that are posted actually have geographic requirements, whether it's a specific state, city, country, or even a region of the country or a country. So if you're searching on FlexJobs, be sure to always list your location to see positions hiring where you live. If you are on other sites, pay special attention to any location requirements listed within the job posting. You also want to customize your resume and cover letter every time you apply. The majority of companies, small, medium, and large employers are using applicant tracking systems, whether it's a remote or in-person job. So your materials should be tailored and optimized to match key terms and phrases each time you apply. But you also want to highlight your remote and distributed team experience if you have it as well. You're going to highlight relevant technology skills too. Finally, networking. As with non-remote employers, networking is a pretty critical step in your job search. Think about grassroots networking, LinkedIn professional groups, informational interviews, etc. These are some things that you should include in your job search action plan so that you can be more visible to people who are interested in hiring for the type of work that you can do. All right. So how do you evaluate your progress once you have the making of a job search action plan? Well, first, you're going to test things out for at least 30 days. Your networking goals, sending applications, following up with employers a week after you've applied, etc. And then what you're going to do is evaluate what is producing results and what isn't. You're going to then pivot and put more effort into what is producing results and shift off of what isn't for the next couple of weeks. And then check to see if you should add something that you haven't been trying yet. Remember, job searching takes time, so continually evaluating your tactics will allow you to keep moving forward and making forward progress in the right direction. All right. So whether you use the job search checklist, the job search action plan worksheet, both, or the job search tracker, a combination of them, or something completely different, develop a tracking system that works for you. Remember, the end goal is to keep yourself organized and moving forward. So the system that you create has to be something that is going to be workable for you and what you want to accomplish. Work your system, as we talked about, for at least 30 days to see what's working, what isn't working, and then make adjustments as necessary. If you need more support, seek out those resources. Make sure you're relying on people within your network. Take advantage of the different resources that are on the FlexJobs site and others, because that's really going to help you make sure you are putting your best foot forward on your applications and beyond. So of course, as we said, we will be sending out the link to this recording and the resources. So you'll have those, but there are many more that you can find on the FlexJobs blog. So please don't forget to go there and see what those are. Those are all free. And that can help you, again, implement the actions that you've outlined in your action plan. So look for the recording, check out and seek out more resources and more webinars to help you make the progress you need. And now let's see what questions there are. So please add those questions to the Q&A section. I'm going to go in and we're going to look at those questions and see what kind of information we can provide now. Thanks, everyone. Hi, everybody. This is Tony. Let's see what questions we have. Excuse me. When applying for a job, is it better to apply on LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed, or finding the position on the company's website. When I apply for a position on LinkedIn, I find the recruiter who works for the company I'm applying to. So we always think that it's best to apply to the position on the company's website when at all possible. Now, you can still find the recruiter on LinkedIn and send them a note, or reach out to them, or connect with them, even if you don't apply for the position on LinkedIn. I will say that from some training I've been in, and doing some LinkedIn profile training, the trainer of the course is a recruiter who uses LinkedIn recruiting, and so he gets a lot of applicants from LinkedIn job postings, and he has indicated, LinkedIn jobs, you probably have seen, have hundreds and hundreds of applicants, which I think is true on company websites as well. However, what he shared is that most of those applicants that apply, hitting easy apply, in particular, are not qualified. So don't let that number of applicants, kind of deter you from applying if you are indeed highly qualified for the role. So I would say, as a first approach, apply on the company website. And then from there, you can apply on other places where you see the job posting. Now, just as a note about FlexJobs, if you see a job on FlexJobs that you click apply to, you actually will be redirected to the company page's application for that job, and you will be applying on the company's website. I like this question. Are cover letters making a comeback in the application process? I don't know that I'd necessarily say they're making a comeback. I don't think they ever really went out. Now, you could ask 5 different career experts what their thoughts on cover letters are, and I know you're going to probably get 5 slightly different answers, but here's our take here at FlexJobs. Cover letters can be a very useful tool to enhance your job application and your resume. It allows you to tell a little bit more of your career story in a different way than what your resume can do. I think they are particularly helpful if you are returning to work, if you are trying to do a career change. Perhaps you're looking for a role that is a lower seniority level than you are currently in. These are ways that you can kind of explain a little bit more, or highlight more specifically what relevant skills you have for the job that you are applying for. And so, in this time that we are in, with AI and applicant tracking systems being so prevalent, I do think a cover letter provides a little bit more, like I said, of the person who's applying's ability to kind of control their career narrative and what information is out there. So if you've been applying to jobs for a while and you're not hearing back from employers, or you're not getting the results that you had hoped, and you are not doing a cover letter, we always say you need to evaluate what's working and what's not working, and then make some tweaks. A cover letter might be something that I would recommend trying on your next several applications to see if it makes a difference. How would one follow up with an employer if there is no contact information listed on the job posting? Do I search for people who work at the employer on LinkedIn? Yeah, I think that's a great way to start. There are a couple other resources I think that you could find, potentially email addresses for people if you can get a name of somebody maybe from the website. And that is hunter.io and Rocket. I don't know if it's rocket.com. Let me see if I can find that out really quick. Let's see if I can find it. Rocket Reach, I think. Rocketreach.co maybe might work, but hunter.io, I know for sure, is one resource that you could use. So those would be the options that I would go through. Why is it important to track which jobs you apply to? I was doing it for a while and I wasn't finding value in it. Well, I think that now this depends on the volume of jobs that you are applying for. We hear from a lot of people that they are applying to dozens, if not hundreds of jobs. And so I think that just makes the process a little bit more manageable when you get contacted back from an employer. It also gives you a place or a way to save the job posting in the event that you are going to do an interview and get invited for an interview. A lot of companies will take the job posting down when they have stopped taking applicants, and often that's during the interview process. And you always want to be able to refer back to the job description if you are preparing for an interview. So I feel like an organization process, or just knowing what the job description is at least, is really helpful. Now, your tracking system does not need to be overly complicated. It can be very simple. You could write it down on a piece of paper, and then you could copy and paste the job description and save it in a file on your computer. And that might be all you need to do. For other people, they would like to, have a little bit more detail, have a link to the company webpage, any contact name that they have, anyone that, you can make it as detailed and as, robust as works for you, or you can make it as simple as possible. Personally, I would go the simple route for myself and my style, but I do still think tracking provides value, because if you are in a job search for several months and applying for jobs, it just can help jog your memory as you go through. Sometimes companies, will take 30 days or more to decide who they are going to interview. And so I don't know about you, but for me, I might have forgotten that I even applied to that job. Also, if you end up maybe applying for a job again at that company, or maybe you have an interview and you don't get the job, but you are going to, it's a very good relationship and you keep in touch with them, and 6 months or 8 months later, you're going to apply again, you would have all that information to refer back to, so that you could update that original resume that you send it to your contact, and all of those types of things. So it's just a way to keep it easier for you, if that is indeed what it does. But if it doesn't make it easier for you, then you need to, do what works. Why does Glassdoor or ZipRecruiter send you the same jobs over and over, or send postings for a career path that you are not qualified for? I keep receiving jobs for engineers. I know you may not have the answer, but I thought I would ask. Yeah, I actually don't have the answer. I'm not familiar with those sites, but my guess is there are certain filters that you probably can set up in your account that maybe need to be adjusted or tightened a little bit, but I would probably recommend reaching out to their client services team. Would you suggest creating your cover letter and resume as one document, or two separate documents? Great question. And this depends. So sometimes a job application will have a separate spot for you to either upload your cover letter, or it may even have a text box that you can copy and paste your cover letter in. And so in that case, I would just submit your resume as is, and then upload your cover letter in the separate spot that it gives you, or put it in the text box. If there is not a place to upload a cover letter, in other words, it's not necessarily required or not mentioned or asked for, then what I would do is I would put it as the last page of your resume and attach it all as one document. I have a less common background, education and administration. Any suggestions on how to find positions on FlexJobs where these skills can transfer? I assume management skills are a starting point. Yeah, I think management skills. I also think just searching from keywords. So if you think about your skill set and the experiences that you have in education and administration, I would start with the skills that you have that that you want to utilize in your next role. Maybe that's project management, maybe it's facilitation or coordination, maybe it is, administrative type work. So any of those skills you can use as search keywords, so that you can run a search for jobs that require those particular skills. And that way, the job search results are going to be jobs that have those skills somewhere in the job posting or job title, but you're not stuck on searching for job titles. So that's a way that you could do that, is looking at those transferable skills, particularly the skills that you want to emphasize in your next role. And that's where I would start. Many of the jobs I am applying for are in higher education. My background, the application can close weeks after I apply for the job. When should I follow up on my application and in the process? I would wait to follow up until the date that the job closes, or the next day. You don't want to follow up while they are still accepting applications, because it's not very often that they'll respond to you when you follow up in the first place, but you definitely know they're not going to respond to you while they're still accepting applications because they haven't made any decisions. So this is another reason it's helpful to track the jobs that you apply for, so you can track follow-up dates if it's not going to be within a week, because if they say they're collecting applications until September 30th and you applied on September 10th, you're going to want to follow up around October 1st. How should I do a career break on company applications? So if you go to the resources section, we have some sample templates of how you can list a career break on your resume. So I would start there. And then when you're filling out the application form, you can upload your resume, and sometimes that gets parsed in. Sometimes it doesn't parse in correctly the career break piece of it. It will pull other jobs. So you'll have to do some copying and pasting or moving some things around, but I would just add your career break, if it's a planned career break, professionally active career break, or career break, and then, the dates, and then a simple bullet, an intentional pause out of the workforce to spend time with my family, or one of multiple people laid off due to a company restructuring, or something along those lines, but that's how you can do it. Which one is better for a remote work applicant, a resume or portfolio? Well, I think for every job that you apply to, you're going to need a resume. A portfolio is not something that everybody in every field is going to need. Now, if you are in a creative field or a tech field where you would have projects to show and different visuals that you would like to use, a portfolio can make a lot of sense. So definitely start with a resume, and then field and industry dependent would depend on if you need a portfolio that you can share as well. What is your advice on using AI to tailor a resume for remote work? Great question. And I just want to plug, we do have several webinars on the topic of AI, which I think can be really helpful because this technology is changing so quickly. I have a hard time keeping up with it. But AI can be an excellent tool to help with efficiency in your job search and productivity in your job search. Taking a job description, taking your resume and asking AI for ideas on how you could tailor your resume to that specific job using keywords from the job description to make it more tailored and more relevant to the role is helpful. Now, when you do that, you're going to get an example of the verbiage you should use on your resume. What you should not do is take that word for word, copy and paste it, upload it, and send that as your own resume. Hiring managers are onto this. They know when somebody does that. But what you can do is look at it and think, oh, that's a good idea. How can I massage this even more to make it in my tone and my words? And so that's really what you want to do, is use it for ideas and brainstorming as an enhancement to your resume that you already have, not use what AI gives you as your own work 100%. All right. Oh, that's our time. Let me see if I can get one more question quick. Where do you find the recruiter names on the job postings? Oftentimes, the recruiter name is not attached to the job description on job boards. It won't be there. You can sometimes find it if you see the job on LinkedIn and you're reading about the job. It might say who the job poster is. That's where you can get the name on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you might have to do some inference and data gathering on the company website for who's in HR, who might be doing the hiring for that department and that team. You might be able to find the hiring manager in the department of which the job is posted. So it does create a little investigative work. You might not always be able to find the exact name of somebody. But again, this is why if you are connected or following the company that you're interested in working for, you can go through LinkedIn and do a list of the people who work at that company and then filter based on department, industry category like marketing, advertising, sales, whatever that might be. You might also be able to connect with somebody there who went to your same university or who lives in the same state or area as you. So there are a number of different ways you can lean into that as well. All right, everybody. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you for your very thoughtful questions. I hope these answers were helpful for you. We will be back tomorrow with an additional webinar. I guess it's Thursday already. So we always appreciate your time, and I hope to see your name pop up in big marker again. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.